back to the Book Arcade. I'm for reading's sake, and today is a great day because today is Book Arcade's very first book haul. Now, I've been accumulating packages of books for the last couple of weeks in anticipation of this glorious event, partly because I have no self-control and I can't stop buying books during quarantine. Send help. I will be featuring one of the books that I received from one of my Instagram followers, and if you would like to support my Amazon wishlist, the link is posted below in the description. Before I get into the good stuff, I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the goals and the process for Book Arcade's book hauls. So Book Arcade is all about just the joy of being a bookworm. I do this for the love of books and for the sake of reading and nothing else. I want to try, operative word, try, to do what I call the snapshot book haul method, which is where I'm just going to give you a little bit of a taste of each of these books by talking about them for about 30 seconds to a minute about what they're about or just the reason why I picked them in these orders. When I do videos that are book recommendations or book reviews, I will take my sweet time and delve into the details, but book hauls are all about the anticipation and exposure to new books. So I have not organized these books by traditional genres today, but instead I focused on the interests that I had in them. So we're going to be discussing topics from books that have awesome character names to books that have great, strong female protagonists. Most of the books that I share with you today will be in the middle grade and YA section because I do feature a lot of the books that I share on the channel in my classroom library, but Book Arcade is not exclusively just for middle grade and YA books. So I feel like these books are like radiating over here, just waiting to be on screen. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first book that I'm going to share with you today is kind of falling under the category of a book that has a really strong female protagonist. So this is extremely important to me because I feel like while I was growing up, I wasn't always exposed to books that made me feel empowered as a young girl. And so when I see titles that have characters that are strong female leads, I make sure to include them in my book selection because I think that there's such a value in being able to represent women, especially young girls, in a powerful light. So the Unforgettable Guinevere St. Clair is definitely one of those characters. So I was immediately drawn to the title. I've always had a huge love for stars, so I feel like a lot of the books that I end up picking have like either star in the title or stars on the cover. But in this case, actually, the book is not at all about stars, but instead it's about a young girl who is determined to be a lawyer. And when I read the description, I was definitely given the impression that this girl is a firecracker. And I love that. I cannot wait to read this book because I know that Guinevere St. Clair is going to be the kind of person who I want to be friends with. And I love reading books where the character is has a big personality. So check out the Unforgettable Guinevere St. Clair. All right, so our next book is falling under the same category as the Unforgettable Guinevere St. Clair. It is also featuring an amazing young girl who has a very strong personality, and this book is called Each Tiny Spark. The main character in this book is Amelia Torres, and she has a big interest in welding. It seems from my impressions of what I've read about this book so far that it is her papi who teaches her. So not only is she this amazing young girl who is venturing into an interest in a field that not a lot of young women pursue, but also she comes from a really wonderful Hispanic family, and just flipping through, I noticed that there is a lot of Spanish embedded into this story, which I love because I feel like any book that can kind of feature and teach you more about another language is definitely worth reading, and also it will definitely be identifiable for readers who speak Spanish. So definitely looking forward to this. I was compelled to buy this book because of this quote here on the cover, so I'm going to share that with you guys. And there's also a really wonderful quote right at the very beginning of the story, so I'm going to feature that as well. The quote that I see and that really drew my attention to this book is "Be brave and light up the world." I think that, especially right now, that's a really crucial message because there definitely needs to be more positivity and inspiration in the world right now. The quote that I fell in love with at the beginning of this book here says, "When we wake up in the morning, we can choose between fear and love every morning. And every morning, if you choose one, that doesn't define you until the end." Love this, cannot wait to read this, and cannot wait to learn more about welding because I don't know a whole lot about welding. Moving on to the books that feature kind of STEM interests. First, I want to talk to you about this book called The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. So this is a really neat read because it is about a girl named Lucy Callahan who is struck by lightning, right? So for all of my superhero fans, my Marvel and DC people, immediately I was like, oh my gosh, like female superhero, so cool. But even better than that, when she's struck by lightning, she's given the ability to have like these super genius math skills, which I desperately needed while I was growing up. So super jealous of Lucy Callahan. Now she is totally like super smart. She's a super nerd and she feels like she has everything that she needs to start college, but there's only one more thing that she needs to cover first: middle school. So she's been homeschooled up to this point, but her grandmother insists that she should try to go to school and she should read at least one book and go to middle school for at least 1 year, make at least one friend, and join one activity. So that makes Lucy feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't need to do that. Like I have everything that I need, I'm ready to go. But what she starts to learn as she continues on her new quest is that there are certain lessons that you have to learn beyond calculations and formulas. Lessons about friendship, lessons about participating and loving and enjoying human connection. And so I love the last line in the back of this book. It says, "The equation of Lucy's life has already been solved, unless there's been a miscalculation." Love this, cannot wait to read this. And while we're on the topic of kind of that STEM sort of book, this book is one that I picked because I realized that I don't read a lot of books that cover STEM topics and I wanted to change that. So this book is called Engine Nerds and I was immediately drawn to it because on the back it says how awesomely amazing would it be to have a robot. Yeah, sure, okay. I mean, I would love to have a robot. Now, I don't think I would like the process of building a robot, but if the robot did my laundry for me, sign me up. So as I read through, I noticed that this is just the kind of book that's just gonna make you laugh, and it's one of those books that's just kind of carefree and funny, probably great for like middle school aged boys. And it's all about this group of super smart, super nerdy friends who find themselves battling a gang of rogue robots. And so I love that. I feel like that's gonna be a really interesting read. And while we're on the topic of robots, I'd like to feature now the book that I received from one of my Instagram followers. Thank you so much, Casey Murphy, for sending me The Wild Robot. This is a book that I've been wanting to get my hands on for a while. A lot of the fellow readers that I collaborate with have said that this book is definitely worth reading. And I just got back from a hiatus in Yellowstone National Park, so I have already kind of been thinking a lot about the connection that man shares with nature. And now when I read this book, I get to consider the balance between technology and nature, because this book is all about a robot who finds herself trying to make a home in a remote and wild island. So cannot wait to read a book written from a robot's point of view. I feel like that's gonna be really interesting in and of itself. Is it gonna be a sentient being? Is it going to be programmed? Cannot wait, love the idea of this, and it's very popular right now. So thank you so much to Casey Murphy for sending this book my way. Okay, on the topic of nature, our very next book is called The Line Tender. So this is one that was featured in one of my friend's Instagrams, and to be honest with you, when I very first put this on the list, I didn't really know a whole lot about what it was about, but I'm so glad that I added it, because when I read the first little chunk of the description, I fell in love. Here it is. This book is funny, Poignant and moving, The Lying Tinder is a story of nature's enduring mystery and a girl determined to find meaning within it. Oh, I already identify with this main character. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time in nature lately within this quarantine, having to social distance, because I really just needed to kind of get away from everything that was happening in the world and recharge in the natural world. And I was astonished by how breathtaking and serene and amazing it can be to just exist within the natural world and think about our place in it and think about how we can contribute to taking care of the environment that we are surrounding ourselves in and that we're calling home instead of destroying it. And so I cannot wait to see what the main character in this book has to say about finding meaning within nature and enjoying its enduring mystery, because I can totally relate to that experience, especially right now. And I know that it's one that kind of often gets put in the back burner, unfortunately, but it really is so important for us to take care of our home, to take care of the earth. So the next book that I'd love to share with you is called The River Runs Deep, and I simply chose this book because I fell in love with the cover art. I love the ribbon, I love the bird, but what really took my attention is these unshackled chains here that are in the bottom of the ocean. And when I started to read what this book was about, I learned that it's historical fiction, which I would not have guessed from the cover. And I also learned that it's about a young boy named Elias who has this sickness called consumption and who is spending a lot of his time in bed. And his doctor is kind of just calling for that. He's saying that he needs to be on bed rest, and he is kind of just taking away and all of the adventure out of Elias's life. And so Elias kind of feels really bored and wants to have more adventure in his life. And on the days where his consumption isn't peaking, he starts tagging along with the doctor's slave and realizes that there are these tunnels that are like a whole lot more than just a bunch of sick folks that are deep in the winding tunnels of the infirmary. And so he finds out actually there's like this huge secret, and he is trying to figure out if he's going to risk his life to keep the secret. And so I'm really wondering what that's about. And I'm really hoping that this book evokes a lot of the importance of freedom. And one of the things that I did notice about one of the reviews here says that this is a historical fiction that brings its history to bloody and poignant life. It is rare and notable. So I love a good historical fiction that isn't afraid to be accurate, even if it does have to reveal kind of some of the darker elements of our past, because I think that it's super crucial to bring those things to light. That way we can rectify the damage that's caused by some of the history that we have in our country. Okay, moving forward, on a lighter note, let's do the books that are about dogs. So recently in my life, I have adopted a Australian Shepherd puppy named Darcy. She will honestly probably be featured on the channel a lot, but because I've had such like kind of dog on the brain, I've picked a lot of books about dogs lately too, because I just love being a dog mom and I want to read books about animals. So the books that I've picked for this book haul about animals are A Pup Called Trouble, Sled Dog School, and Voyage of the Dogs. So let's start with Voyage of the Dogs. As soon as I saw this, I actually kind of just randomly thought of Guardians of the Galaxy for some reason. I don't know if it was the graphics or the artwork, but this is all about dogs who are isolated in outer space. They get stranded. Their mission and the group of humans that's traveling with them get separated from them, and I think that it's just going to be really cool to kind of consider the journey that a dog might have in outer space. The next book is A Pup Called Trouble. This is about a coyote pup that finds a home in Central Park in New York City. It definitely made me nostalgic and think back to Oliver and Company from when I was a child. And I'm looking forward to see how the humans in the story react to a pup called Trouble. Recently, I read A Wolf Called Wonder, and one of the things that I think the author did really well in that story is kind of showing the perspective that nature might have if they could voice their concern about humans' interaction with them as animals and also with the world around them. Sled Dog School just seemed awesome because growing up, I read books like The Call of the Wild and Balto. My sister has a friend who is currently being super awesome and running a team of sled dogs in Alaska right now. So it's something that comes up in conversation, and it's something that I don't think about a whole lot. So I think that it's just going to be really cool. The main character in this book is named Matt, and he decides that he wants to do a business project. It's actually for his math class, and the business project is all about starting a sled dog school. Really cool, awesome, unique topic there. Switching gears from puppies to memoirs. These two, so first of all, memoir is one of my favorite genres. I think I mentioned that in the first video. But even better, Enchanted Air is a memoir that is written in verse. So it combines two of the best genres, which are memoir and poetry. And this particular memoir is about Margarita. She is of Cuban descent, but it's her mother's native land, native country, but she herself lives in Los Angeles. So I feel like the two cultures kind of are balancing where she comes from and her heritage to America, the place she calls home. Cannot love this. Kind of a weird theme that I'm not noticing until now about buying books that have birds on them this time. I'm all about it. Here we are. So this book is called Life in Motion, and it's about Misty Copeland, and it's the Young Readers Edition. And I'm really wondering, I want to read this book because I want to understand why they call her an unlikely ballerina. I love ballet. I have huge admiration for ballet. When I was growing up, the valedictorian of one of the high schools that I attended was a professional ballerina. Very excited. It reminds me of a book that I read when I was a kid about Michelle Kwan, who is a figure skater, and I'm looking forward to finding out about that unlikely ballerina. Next, let's talk about this graphic novel series. So this is definitely all the rage, has been for the last couple of years, and they actually just recently also came out with a book called Guts. I love the idea of a series of books that is written in comic strips and kind of graphic novel form. To be completely honest with you, I didn't know too much about this series. I just knew that I've heard wonderful reviews and I love a good graphic novel, so why not read a series? We've got drama and smile and sisters. Okay, let's do sequels next. So at the beginning of the summer, I actually read a book called Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. Jacqueline Woodson also wrote Brown Girl Dreaming, her memoir in verse, and this is the sequel to Locomotion called Peace Locomotion. Now I'm particularly excited to read this because the very first book was a novel in verse, and what I love about this book is that it's a sequel featuring the same character and the same point of view. But it's written in letter form, in kind of a chapter book style. So I'm loving the versatility there, and I cannot wait to see how the author balances this new modality of conveying the point of view of this character who I already know and love, Locomotion. So I have taught holes in the last couple of years, and I have never read Small Steps, and so I knew that I needed to include it in a book haul at some point because I love holes and I love the characters that are featured in holes, and so I wanted to be able to enjoy the extension of those characters' stories in Small Steps. Okay, so our next title is a YA title, and if you are a viewer that is under the age of 18, I highly recommend kind of checking out what this book is about before you read it. I think it's a really important book, and it's a very controversial, and books that are controversial are some of the most important stories, but this is a book about 6 students who are in a school that is trying to survive an active shooting, and basically they realize that the shooter is still within the building, and they have to kind of find a way to survive and find a way to figure out what's happening and why it's happening. And it seems like it's definitely the kind of book that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat and keep you full of anticipation. It's told from multiple perspectives. I love a book that does that. I think it's so amazing when you see the different perspectives of multiple characters. It makes the story more layered and have more depth. And I think that this is a book that's going to be really crucial to having appropriate and necessary conversations about the topic of violence in schools. So again, this is supposed to be a really great read, but I advise you to read it with caution, especially if you're on the younger side. Make sure that you've got a trusted adult that you can read this book with, or that you can talk about the issues that are featured in this book as you're reading. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to books that I chose because the main character has an awesome name. Starting with this book, the main character of this book's name is December, and I just think that's so cool. I just feel like that's a really unique. And December is a foster child, and she believes that she's a bird, right? So I feel like anybody who's seen The Notebook is like, yes, I'm a bird. And so she thinks that the scar that's on her back, and who knows why she has that scar, right? Is because someday she's gonna develop wings and fly. So it doesn't matter if she doesn't like where she is right now, she won't be grounded there forever. But things kind of start to change for her. And when she's placed in a foster home with a new foster mom named Eleanor, who's kind of quirky and a little weird, but super loving, she thinks that, maybe things are gonna change for her. Maybe life is gonna get a little bit better. And so this is a debut novel from the author, and it tells a deeply original and unforgettable story about family, friendship, and finding where you belong. So can't wait to learn about December's journey and enjoy. I love her name, so I hope the character is just as awesome as the name. Next, we've got Blackbird Fly. So this character's name is Apple, and I don't know anything about it except the fact that her name is Apple. And when I saw the back of this book, I freaked out because y'all know I'm a huge Beatles fan, and it says, I can play any Beatles song on guitar. Love it already. Cannot wait to read Blackbird Fly and enjoy Apple's story as well. This book gave me mixed feels and kind of a little bit of sad vibes, but in a way where I'm already feeling a little bit of compassion for the character. It's called The Memory of Forgotten Things, and it's about a girl named Sophia who's lost her mother at a very young age, and she keeps having these memories that are actually never happened and don't exist, right? So she's not really sure why she has all these memories because they haven't been a part of her life. But then she starts to learn about solar eclipses, and she does this science project, and she hopes that just like the kind of lore and mystery that she's read about with solar eclipses, that she might actually have a chance to make this alternate reality and these memories come to life and become her life by bringing her mom back. This book reminds me of The Thing About Jellyfish, because it's got the same kind of yearning to it when you read about the character. And I feel like it's gonna be one of those novels where the character comes to terms with their situation and kind of has to accept where they are. Or it could turn out to be a really awesome book where at the very end, she really does get to live this alternate life. So that's the beauty of fiction, right? And I cannot wait, but I definitely already feel for this character and want to hear her story, The Memory of Forgotten Things. So this next book is one of my favorite in this book haul because I feel like there just aren't enough books out there that feature characters from the background of any Asian culture. It's just kind of a rare hole that needs to be filled with wonderful stories. And this story is about a girl named Saki, and she is from Tokyo, but she actually goes to visit her grandmother's village during a summer vacation, and she's super bored. She says that all they're doing is like this old traditional stuff and these old traditional ceremonies, but like the local kids start to take an interest in Saki, and she kind of changes her tune a little bit. And then she sees an opportunity to have some fun, even if it means disrespecting her family's ancestral shrine on a malicious dare. Yikes. But then Saki rings the sacred bell. So there's like an element of fantasy here that's, I feel like, going to be really interesting. And this darkness kind of shifts. There's this huge tone shift, and a death curse is put into place because of ringing the bell. So Saki has 3 nights to undo this curse, and she finds help with spirit guides, and she either has to prove her worth and break the curse or say goodbye to the world of the living forever. So I love this adventure that the author has created. I'm looking forward to reading more about Japanese culture. One of my favorite books that I teach almost every year is Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes, and I love the beauty of Japanese culture that's reflected in that story. I really hope that this book does the same. Okay, the Bigfoot Files is kind of an ironic and intriguing book because I expected it to be all about cryptozoology and kind of investigating and believing in Bigfoot, and the main character actually actively contests those theories because of the embarrassment that she feels by her mother, who is a cryptozoologist and hasn't been the most responsible at the time. So this is definitely like your Bildungsroman about a young girl who realizes that her family is in trouble and kind of has to leave the fantasy behind for her first taste of the real world. And I'm interested to see what happens with the story and if she loses her sense of wonder or if she's able to power through despite the obstacles that she's facing. The Magic Misfits. So ever since I saw the short animation, The Butterfly Circus, I've been hooked on books about the circus. And I just think that there's so much mystery involved in any kind of carnival story. So The Magic Misfits was a series that I wanted to start. I just got the first book so that I can kind of see where I'm at and how I'm feeling when I read and start this series, but a good carnival book is always one that I want to dive into. So the back of this book is also very appealing. It's got I love when they kind of just pull a little excerpt. So if you've seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, then you know that 42 is the answer to life. And I will frequently turn to page 42 in a book when I'm shopping and read the first couple of lines to see whether or not the book is something that I would want to include in my library. So here are the first couple of lines from the first book in the series, The Magic Misfits. One woman nearly fainted. When it was Carter's turn, he saw why. Inside sat the two-headed woman, calmly reading a book. The distorted view made her even more ghastly. Carter spit on his sleeve to wipe away any inch of dirt so he could see better. Of course the glass is so dirty, Carter thought. The sideshow needs the audience's view to be blurred. So I love already that this author is kind of playing with some optical illusions that gives even more of a mystery and kind of the mysticism that we all know and love about carnivals. I'm gonna keep reading. Okay, 3 Times Lucky is a book that when I read the description, I was like, this book is like meant for 2020, because this book is just disaster after disaster after disaster. Mo's summer is looking good, but that's before the murder, the kidnapping, the car crash, and the hurricane. If there was a time for Mo to put her detective skills to work, this is it. Mystery, catastrophe, 2020. This is 3 Times Lucky, everybody, and it seems like the kind of story that will wind and put you through a really good mystery, and I'm hoping that it's one that can be a good read. The Key to Everything. So when I started to read about this book, I immediately had like 1,000 questions, right? Like, what is this key? Where does it lead to? You find out that the key has like a kind of magic to it. So you have like, I'm like, okay, so why is the key magical? Why is the key given to the characters? How are they going to use the key? And it seems like it's kind of a relatively short read. So I like that too, because to be honest, mystery isn't always my favorite genre, because sometimes I do kind of feel like you get lost in a labyrinth. And so I'm excited that this one is a little bit on the shorter side, because I want to enjoy the mystery while still staying captivated by the magic of the key. Okay, now we've got Just South of Home. Just South of Home. I loved the title of this, and I'm gonna read this because I really just feel like this is just enough of a hook for you to understand why I ordered this book. I couldn't deny it. What we had seen was as real as the sun, the stars, and the planets in our solar system. Those shadows were physical things, and they weren't human. I didn't need any more theories, no more explanations. Creed Church was haunted. Dun, dun, dun. Right? Okay, so cannot wait to find out why it's haunted and what that's all about. The next two books that I'm featuring in this book haul are from Barbara O'Connor, Wish and Wonderland. Both of these books seem to have the kind of tone that leaves you with a really big sense of wonder. Charlie Reese has been making the same secret wish every single day since 4th grade, but when she is sent to live with family she barely knows, it seems unlikely that her wish will ever come true. Can't wait to find out what her wish is and if it comes true. Henry was tired of being alone in the woods. He was going to look for those girls, the wild hair one and the quiet one. They had been so nice to him, kissing him and petting him. So he ran for hours through fields, across roads, and in and out of woods until he found what he was looking for. Okay, immediately I'm like, are these like real girls or are they like imaginary friends? And what's their story? Why does he find them? Seems like this is the kind of book that it totally is, that's written from multiple points of view. Y'all know I love that already, and I'm excited to see the different characteristics of these different perspectives. So it seems like Mavis is one of the main characters, she's fearless and bold. We've got Rose, who's a warrior who feels like she doesn't quite fit in. And then Henry, who's run away from home but craves a sense of kindness and comfort. So they're real girls, and it seems like they are gonna forge a really awesome friendship. At least that's what I hope. Wonderland. Scary stories for young foxes. Originally, I thought this was an anthology of scary stories, but as I actually open it up, it seems like it is an anthology, but they're kind of a couple of different chapters within each story, which I think is great. What really made me want to order this book was the awesome artwork that's featured inside of it. So first of all, I love the kind of books, these kind of books. Wolf Called Wonder does this too, where you have like different pages right here where it's like different colors are featured, and you've got the illustrations that kind of bring these to life. It says that the haunted season has arrived in an Antler Wood and no fox kit is safe. So I'm trying to find a good page to show you guys to feature these illustrations. Check this out. I'm excited to see how these different fox stories could be related, how they correlate. And I'm all in for this interconnected anthology of short, scary stories. These next two books, first we've got The War That Saved My Life. I've been wanting to get my hands on this Newbery Award-winning book for a long time. The protagonist in this book is named Ada, and she is 10 years old. She's got a twisted foot, kind of like a physical deformity, and her wicked mother actually just like coops her up in their 1-bedroom apartment and doesn't let her leave. And so it's not until her bigger brother is shipped off to fight in World War II in London that she gets to escape her prison in the 1-bedroom apartment. when she leaves, she is able to ride a pony and learns to read, and she even watches out for German spies. And so I'm interested in seeing if and how they survive and even thrive in spite of war. I've heard a lot of really wonderful things about this book, and it's got a sequel too called The War I Finally Won. Next but not least, we've got The Wind Called My Name. This book takes place in the Great Depression, and it is like not what I would expect for a book that takes place in the Great Depression, because it features a main character named Margarita from New Mexico, and her family is moving to Wyoming because her father has a new railroad job. She meets a friend, but when she tries to explain more about herself coming from New Mexico, she isn't really taken with as much sincerity and compassion as she wants to be by her new friend, because she tries to share about her Hispanic struggle or her struggles as a Hispanic person, and it seems like her friend just doesn't get it. This book is a winner of the 2 Books New Visions Award, and it is a heartfelt story of a girl and her family who are determined to stand strong no matter what winds blow their way. So it seems like a really great and unique historical fiction story. The last 2 books that I'm featuring are Whitebird, another story that takes place in World War II, and this book is written by the author of Wonder, and the graphics just speak for themselves. I mean, this book is just beautiful, and I was so fortunate to find this book on First Marketplace. If you don't shop First Book Marketplace, you definitely should check out their products, because they sell books that are beautiful and brand new like this at some of the best prices that I've seen. Our last book today is a picture book called Before She Was Harriet. I watched Hamilton, and one of the things that I love about Hamilton is that it makes you consider the fact that historical figures don't get to choose how their stories are told. And Harriet Tubman is an American hero, but I don't think we've ever really considered what her life would have been like before she became this hero for being the pioneer of the Underground Railroad. So very much looking forward to reading this. I know it's a picture book. I told you, I mean, this is just all about the joy of being a bookworm, and this book is beautiful, and I would love to learn more about Harriet Tubman's life, not only as a hero, but also just as a human being before she was Harriet. The very last part of this book haul is a feature that I wanted to share with you because it will be kind of a focal point in my next video. They say that the best gifts come in the smallest packages. This is a purchase that I made on Etsy from the Forest Fox Press. It is the cutest. Oh, I just love their ability to customize these kind of things. It is an adorable stamp that has kind of the Instagram like button on it with my name, Miss Goldstein. I'm gonna use this book to stamp, switch that, reverse it. I'm gonna use this stamp to mark books that I have read and loved so that I can facilitate good conversations with people that I am recommending books to and students that I'm recommending books to, because they'll know that I've read it since it has a stamp on it. The next video that I'm going to share is all about organizing a classroom or personal library by genre, and it's going to feature some really great customizations that you can use to stay organized and make your library easy to access and very presentable. Thank you so much for coming along on my first book haul adventure. I hope that you like some of these titles that are featured below. The links are actually provided in the descriptions if you're interested in purchasing or including these in your personal collection. And until I see you next time, keep reading.